Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. We're back with another In Context. Today is January 25th, 2026. The topic today is simple. Trump, what is he doing in Greenland? What is he doing in Europe? What is he doing creating this chaos and this dynamic between Europe and the US? How does his antics affect the international order going forward? That's the topic today. And if we have time, I'd like to ask you about Iran, how that mix fits into the Trump mix. I'll leave it to you.
Okay, thank you. So Trump has been ranting for the last several months about what he wants and needs out of Europe. This has gotten to a head by his demand to acquire Greenland. Now, there are two camps of commentators on this. There is the camp that says, well, Trump got what he wanted. Europe is cold. It has given in, and actually, they have agreed to give him sovereignty over parts of Greenland. The other camp says, well, actually, Trump has an egg in his face. I tend to agree with the second camp. Even some of the US media that typically sing the praises of US colonial policy, regardless of their internal political allegiance, are admitting that because it's too obvious. Anecdotes actually tell it well. So, to just put things in context, Trump has been making noises about the fact about his desire to acquire Greenland. He bases this in all kinds of fantastical, fake arguments, like, well, actually, we can only defend the US through acquiring Greenland, because if we don't acquire Greenland, we are exposed to Russian aggression and Chinese aggression, who can colonize the Greenland, or if they don't colonize it, they are going to hit us with rockets and missiles through Greenland. And this is important and vital to our airspace because we want to build our great gold dome nonsense. And to do that, we need to acquire Greenland. The problem with this nonsense is, well, the Russia is nothing like the Soviet Union, and we are not anywhere close to the tension of the Cold War. Russia is not loaded, locked, and ready to bomb the daylights out of US. China is not threatening to attack the US. China is challenging the US in East Asia, not in Greenland or even the Western Hemisphere. Okay. So this is complete nonsense. Even his American media admit this is nonsense. Even his former advisors admit this is nonsense. Then there is the argument of, well, we have a Monroe Doctrine, and Monroe Doctrine says that nobody should have any influence in the Western Hemisphere of the world except the US. That's again nonsense, because the Monroe Doctrine was a colonial doctrine. It looked south to non-European races, not north to Canada or Greenland. One. Two, even then, it didn't lay claim to Canada or Greenland. Even if you don't admit that, which is the subtext, it didn't claim Greenland or Canada. So this is news. Okay. Then there is this stupid, foolish argument of the oil types that, well, there is oil and rare earths and all kinds of stuff in Greenland, and we're going to use it, and we're going to make a lot of money. People forget that these things, assuming it exist under hundreds of meters of ice. Similar resources exist elsewhere at much lower costs. So the problem here is the cost of getting anything out is more than anything you can turn a profit out of.
Well, that's the silliness of the argument. They're planning now 50 years ahead when the ice melts.
Well, assuming the ice is ever going to melt, that would be a different argument. Right now, there are resources elsewhere that are less expensive to mine. Not just that, there are already oil and rare earth metals on the market at a much lower price point than the price point at which anything like that would be profitable. So the people who are saying this are just shooting their mouth aimlessly without understanding what they are talking about. We're talking about business ventures. For a business venture to exist, you're dealing with Western capitalist companies. They don't spend their own money. They go to a bank and show the bank that, well, we have a business plan, and our business plan will turn this much profit, and we'll give you interest of that much out of it. So you have to show a business plan, and you're not talking about a million. You're talking about tens and hundreds of billions. So to do that, you have to turn a profit. It doesn't exist. Even in much more hospitable places, like in California, there are rare earths in California. Companies are hesitant to go there because right now, the price point does not justify investment. It's below what they can make a quote-unquote decent profit in their minds, whatever it is. So as a result, they are asking for government subsidies to be able to turn a profit. And this is not Greenland. This is desert. So people need to think about arguments before buying into them. So this is all rubbish. Then there is the more reasonable argument by actually some of Trump's former uh, advisors who say all what Trump wants is to acquire a place and stamp his name on it. He wants to acquire a place larger than Louisiana to be the president who added to the US something larger than Louisiana. That has some merit, I'll admit. But although Trump is nasty, ugly, vulgar, he's not completely stupid. There is a strategic goal out of this. Trump is indeed trying to co-Europe, trying to get Europe down to heel to follow the US. And his argument is, you are nothing without us. Shut up and follow my commands. And I'm going to abuse you in public and force you to shut up and follow my commands to show who is boss, just like he did to Venezuela. And what he did to Venezuela was meant to all of Latin America. Okay. Problem is, Europe is Western, colonial like him, and they're not willing to play this game. Okay. So they stood him out. They actually stood him out. So Trump threatened them with tariffs. They froze approval, of the previous agreement they had with him over tariffs, and then threatened counter tariffs. The European economy is as large as the American economy. So when Trump brags that we are the largest economy and everyone wants to sell in the US market, true. But that's only if you don't aggregate Europe. If you aggregate Europe, it's as large, maybe even larger. Okay. Actually, if you look carefully at the way the economic relations are going on, currently the EU is regulating high-tech industries, not the US. Now, the US objects to this and calls this extraterritorial jurisdiction, which is what the US always does, only it's bad when others do it. But that's practical, that's the case. Like in digital industries, a lot of that is being regulated by Europe, not the US. And that reflects the fact that although Europe is slow, they are deliberate also. They are not fools. So they stood him out and threatened even further tariffs, retaliatory tariffs, this time around. And as a result, he backed off. When he backed off in Davos after his grandiose speech to make the image that he won, he backed off in the night, not in the speech. And when he backed off in statement to the media, when he backed off, European officials text to each other, taco. That's according to Western news. Taco. Trump always chickens out.
Oh, that's what that stood for.
Yes.
I was
Trump
wondering why
always
did they
chickens
say
out.
taco.
This actually was coined by Wall Street after his first foray into tariffs, because Wall Street fell through the floor and he backed off and then went again at tariffs and it fell through the floor and he backed off. So after a couple of times of these, they started saying taco. But this time around, it was European political officials, not Wall Street types, who were saying taco. Now, that doesn't mean Europe won. It means that Trump lost. It's not the same thing. Okay. It also means that we are actually witnessing a breakup in the Western colonial camp. This is really extremely good news for humanity. This criminal enterprise has subjugated the human race for 2 centuries or more. It's great news for humanity, not just Muslims, that the gang is fighting. The Arab proverb says that when thieves fight, the loot is exposed. Let's hope that. One last comment about that. One of the interesting things that happened last week was a major speech by the Canadian Prime Minister, who called for an alliance of middle powers. People misunderstand what he's saying. So let me first back off and put this in context. The speech was before Trump's speech, and it should not be seen as Canadian. This guy was the governor of the English Central Bank before. So he doesn't speak only for Canada. He speaks for the Western order, non-US Western. And he was saying that the post-World War II regime is gone. It's not coming back. We have to find something new. and he's proposing an alliance of middle powers. Now, people misunderstand what he means by middle powers. What he means is not the technical term of um, countries that have significant economic and industrial base. What he means is the Western alliance minus US. He doesn't mean Brazil or South Africa. If you listen carefully to what he's saying, you're saying we were safe and secure under an umbrella in the previous order. This doesn't exist anymore. South Africa and Brazil were never safe under the Western imperial order post World War II. What he's talking about is the countries that were safe under the post World War II umbrella, the American created Western alliance after World War. And he is talking about these countries having to figure out a way to create their own center of power in the international order. The events this week of Europe standing down Trump indicate that this is a possibility. It could happen. It would be a good thing for humanity if it happens, actually,
I
because
see.
four thieves are better than three thieves. Now, the pessimistic might say, well, four thieves mean you have four parties that try to steal you. But those who understand would realize that four thieves trying to steal you at once are better than three thieves that trying to steal you at once, because three thieves can cut deals much easier than four thieves.
Makes sense.
It's a miserable world.
How does Iran fit into this?
Hmm?
How does Iran fit into this?
It doesn't fit into that particularly. Actually, some of the superficial analyses of this fight between Trump and Europe had the view that, well, Trump was doing that to take Iran and Ukraine and Gaza off the table. But that is not meaningful, because it is not as if Trump is waiting for Europe to tell him what to do in Iran or Ukraine or he tries to get away without them. He tried to get away without them in Ukraine, and he had to back off from his 28 points to the 20 points. He has been getting along without them in Iran since he took over. It's Biden that who tried to bring them in and to use them as a tool to pressure Iran. Okay. However, in Gaza, something interesting is happening. So his nonsensical peace board is seeing a boycott by European powers. So right now, none of the European powers have signed on except for the great imperial order of Hungary, if you will. Yeah. And the Nazi party in Germany is saying that if we win elections, we're going to join in.
The Nazi
Okay.
party.
So you have the Nazi party as well. Great. Okay. But people will say, well, actually, but he doesn't need them because he can do whatever he feels like doing. He wouldn't matter. That is not true. Bush Jr. thought so in 2001. He didn't do it in Afghanistan, but he did in Iraq. And the result was loss of legitimacy. So actually, when I say that a breakup with the colonial order is a good thing, because there is evidence, anecdotal evidence, that this is the case. When the colonial order split over Iraq, the result was loss of legitimacy to the US. The US did not suffer only military defeat in Iraq. It suffered loss of legitimacy, meaning it could not justify what it was doing in Iraq. Okay. And that actually is the reason it's being challenged. Before Iraq, the US place as the supreme power, the organizing force of the international order, was not in challenge, meaning nobody would have dreamt about thinking about planning to challenge the US before 2003. It's only after 2003 that this opening has started to become more realistic and forces internationally start to think about, well, actually, we might be able to go our own way. There was noises before that, but it never amounted to much. So Trump's peace board, or whatever you want to call it, right now is the first post-split event. The fight over Greenland is the split event. But what we're seeing in the peace board is the post-split event. It's worth continuing to observe it, not just for the ugliness in humanity and genocide he is perpetrating and continuing to perpetrate through it. Actually, it should be called the genocide board. Anyway, not just because of that, but because it will reveal how this dynamic of breakup in the Western imperial order is going to mean and where it's going to go.
I see it.
So, a related comment. Trump keeps talking about creating an international stabilization force. Essentially, he's looking for foot soldiers to implement his colonial and genocidal commands in Gaza. No one has volunteered. The only force that volunteered is Turkey, and Israel doesn't want it. Trump eventually is going to get them to accept it, but until then, he needs others because he does not want Turkey to be alone, because that means they can go and do their own thing, or some of what they want, and he wants minions. So the latest is he's saying, well, Italy has agreed. You look at his claim, and his claim is Italy has agreed to train Palestinian police. Should they send them to Italy and to politically support the thing? That is not that it is not joining. It doesn't just compute. The fascist prime minister of Italy has had to eventually, after a lot of sycophancy to Trump, to push back that what he's saying about NATO being irrelevant is not acceptable. It's beautiful to watch the orange emperor walking naked. Some ugly scene, but it's beautiful. It's aesthetically ugly, but it's something nice to observe.
Yeah, it's cracks. I see it. I think we got it.
Okay, thank you.
No, thank you.